evening, everyone. I'm Bev Cohen, passionate member of the Union of Jewish Women, and have been given the privilege to introduce Ivan Sachs, my cousin. Ivan was born in Johannesburg, South Africa, married his wife Melanie, and immigrated to Dallas in 1981, and they now have 3 children. Ivan was a typical South African, living the American dream and working hard as a stockbroker. As the Yiddishkeit in Dallas was not like that of Johannesburg, Ivan slowly became more observant once their children were of school-going age. As Melanie says, Ivan took off at 1,000 miles an hour, whereas she is still trying to take off. Ivan was first diagnosed with lymphoma in 2006, where the treatment was just chemotherapy. He had a recurrence in 2011, where the treatment was chemo and an autostem stem cell transplant, which means he used his own stem cells. During this time, to keep up his humor, Ivan organized a pajama competition for all his friends in the community to keep them abreast of his progress. In 2014, the lymphoma came back, and in the beginning, this was difficult for Ivan to hear, but it wasn't long before he accepted and fully embraced the situation. This time, he had to have chemo and an allo stem cell transplant, which is a stem cells from a donor. Ivan is 20 months out of this treatment and is waiting to hear in November if all is good and that he has been cured. Despite all his hardships and turbulent times, his philosophy is, attitude is everything, so choose a great one. Ivan is the most inspirational, motivational, and positive human being. I am proud to introduce my cousin, Ivan Sachs.
Thanks. I don't like standing behind a podium because it separates us, and I've come a long distance not to be separated. Anyway, I want to thank from the bottom of my heart everyone that's here. I know some of you, I haven't met all of you. A lot of my family members came here, a lot of people that are connected with me in the United States. And for me, it's very special to have my mom, my sister, and all my first cousins competing with each other. I've got 2 sets of first cousins from different sides, and by the end of the time, I'll decide which will be the winner. It has been described that I had cancer 3 times, and it's true, I have had cancer 3 times, and that's been my blessing. What you're going to hear tonight is something that you probably haven't heard before. I'm not scripted, I don't have notes, I don't know what I'm going to say, so just forgive me for what I'm going to say that might be wrong. Or hopefully will inspire you to look at life just a little bit differently. I may become a little religious with you, and you're going to have to forgive me on that, because I don't know where any one of you are sitting in your seats. Some of you might be not that connected to religion, whatever. It plays a big part in my life. It wasn't always, so I can identify with those people that were FHB, or and then those from birth, or FFBs, and then people that are just like me and you. So we go and speak all over the country, in the United States and in Canada, speaking about the idea of crisis. I go with my rabbi, Rabbi Roden, who I've known for many, many years, and all I can tell you is that Rabbi Roden, great, thanks Dan. Rabbi Roden is a dear friend of mine. He's not a regular friend, he's a dear friend. He's someone that will go into battle with you and take your back. You don't have any concerns about that. I opened up to him, so every appointment that I went on to for my cancer, appointments with my oncologist, I had Rabbi Roden in addition to Rabbi Kaufman. Rabbi Kaufman is the Rosh Yeshiva for the yeshiva in Dallas called Texas Torah Institute, and Rabbi Roden has been my spiritual rabbi for the last 30 years. So whenever we went in to see the doctors, we'd have to have a conference room. And there used to be a Gemara share going backwards and forwards, and I just sat back and slept. Literally. I mean, Rabbi Kaufman would go along to the lectures because I've got a lot of ADD. I couldn't be bothered going to listen to what I should eat, what I shouldn't eat. He would literally go there. On Shabbos morning, I'd sometimes have to go for medications, and that he would come with me on Shabbos morning for my treatments. He slept in the hotel with me. He traveled down to Houston. So you can see I've got an incredible friendship with the rabbis in Dallas, and with probably about 12 others as well. So you can see I've got a little bit of support in the spiritual world. Tonight, what I'm trying to accomplish is to share with you that we all have crises. I don't think any of us, well, I know for a fact, every one of us has a crisis. Now, what is that crisis? It could be anything. It could be in the area of financial. It could be in the area of relationships. It could be in the area of health. It could be in the area of who knows what. But it's somewhere in there. A person bumps into your car and hits you. How do you feel about that? You don't feel great. But these are all crises. We seem to tend to say a crisis is something that's really cancer-driven or something big. You know, someone dies or whatever. Everything is a crisis. And how you learn to deal with each of those small crises will help you to overcome the larger ones. And I hope to be able to paint a picture on how you do that. Just so you know, I'm not a motivational person. I'm not always happy and cheery and everything. I'm not like the Brady Bunch. Unfortunately, I've lived in America now for 34 years. When I go and give talks all over the country, they're more impressed by my accent than by what I say. So I'm very concerned that with my audience here tonight, that you're not going to be impressed with my accent. And I hope what I've been saying over there has really been something. So we'll determine tonight whether I had something meaningful to say or if they just were impressed by the accent. I haven't lost my accent yet. So as was mentioned, I first had cancer 10 years ago in 2006. And to say that I was shocked and dismayed, it was really the first time in my life that I felt faint. It was clearly a faint thing. I had pain in my back for a period of 30 days. I couldn't sleep. I tried sleeping on the floor, sitting in chairs for 30 days. I went to a chiropractor, the most amazing guy. He told me in 12 sessions, I'll have nothing wrong with me. Took a little x-ray, and sure enough, didn't have a clue. Then I went to other doctors. I went to all different people to try and find a remedy. And then I had a good friend of mine by the name of Dr. Daniel Shalev, and he's a pain management specialist, and then eventually was able to detect that I had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. He arrived at my house with his wife trailing behind. It was May the 3rd, 2006, and there they come in and they said, "Ivan, could you please come, let's sit down in the kitchen." You know, it's pretty ominous, a big brown envelope and everything else like that. And my wife and I are sitting in the kitchen, and he says, "Look, I'm just telling you now, be prepared that you're not going to be able to work anymore. You're not going to be able to be the person that you were. You're going to have to be prepared for hell on earth." And I'm just telling you this because it's better to be prepared for the worst than prepared for anything else. Sure enough, I was really, as I said, faint at that particular point in time. And I love this guy, Dr. Daniel Shalev. He's got a huge amount of compassion. And I must say that what he told me didn't come to pass as badly as what he said, but it was good that he prepared me for that because it was an easy road compared to what he told me it was going to be. So I was grateful to him. But I remember that night distinctly when he left, my wife and I just saying, well, what are we going to do? So as you can see, when you get into a crisis, you don't become joyous and happy about a crisis. But what I'm going to tell you is that when you get that shock, you have to then recognize and identify what the problem is. The worst part of any situation, anyone that's had cancer, is when you get detected with the word cancer, is waiting for the result. What actually do you have? That waiting period between being told and then going to see the oncologist and then waiting for the MRI, waiting for the PET scan, CAT scan or whatever is the worst period of time. And the doctors don't seem to be quick enough because we're just waiting for that information. Meanwhile, the doctors have probably got 2 dozen, 3 dozen people in similar situations, and they are trying to be fast, but no one can be fast enough for you. And so I understand that is probably the worst part in waiting, but once you can recognize and identify what you have, when I recognized and identified that I had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, I didn't know what it was. I heard non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, maybe I was in shock. So they tell me to go down to the Salmon Cancer Center to get a PET scan. So I go there with a friend of mine, Eileen, and Eileen was a radiologist or whatever. She decided to come with me. And I'm filling out the paperwork, and I cannot understand why I'm filling out the paperwork where it doesn't say cancer. So the thing says, do you have cancer? You know, so I said, no, where do I have cancer? She says, Ivan, you do have cancer. Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma is cancer. So you can see that you hear something, but you really don't hear it. So there I had cancer. And I had to come to a very important point, which all of you have to come to this particular important point. When I go with my rabbi, he says, Ivan, please don't push your point. So now I'm nervous. Should I tell you what the point is? Because my rabbi is not here. So I'm going to tell you. Anyway, the point is the following, and I know it's going to be very, very controversial for some of you, and for some of you, you'll say, yeah, that's fine. I had to make a decision. Am I going to be private about it, or am I going to be public about what's happening with me? Understand that I invest for people. I have somewhat of a fund that I have to invest in, and no one wants to invest in a dying broker. You know, if a guy's dying, who wants to invest in a dying broker? He's going to die, and maybe my stocks will die at the same time. So I had that choice to make. Am I going to keep it private, or am I going to go public? And for whatever reason, I decided to go public. And let me tell you something. The blessing of going public, this is the point that I'm trying to make, is huge. If you have the tendency to be very private and not for anyone to know what's going on, believe me, people are gossiping second to none. They can see that you're not looking exactly the same way as you used to. And then you're hiding out, and then your partner or whoever, you know, your spouse is hiding. How's Ivan doing? Well, he's doing great, you know, everything's great and everything. Oh, is there anything wrong? No, nothing wrong at all, you know. I remember with my dad was like that. When he had cancer, my dad landed up with the similar same kind of cancer, and he never wanted anyone to know. I said, Dad, big mistake. And so, but it's very difficult for some people because we are all prisoners of our own personality. But if you can open up, you'll see it is incredible. I met with a lovely lady today who's a distant family member, and she was telling me that she was private all along the way. She couldn't be here tonight because she's going for chemo on Thursday. But initially she went private about the whole thing. And what a huge mistake, she said. And I'll tell you why it's important to be public. First of all, before I get there, one has to be involved with the community. So like Bev and all the UGA women and all those people that are involved in an organization, it is a huge benefit. I'm not talking about being like a butterfly, in other words, flying from one organization to another, but you've got to have deep relationships within the organization that you're in, and those people are going to be there to celebrate your simchas with you, and when you're down, they're going to be there. And you're going to know them, and they're going to know you. Now, the big problem is I don't want anyone to know. I'm going to have all these people come and bug me while I'm there in the hospital and all of that. That is one of the biggest blessings that you can have. It's like chasing away a fly that's annoying you or a mosquito. By the time you're chasing them away with everybody else coming in to do good wishes, the procedure or what you're going through is over. So it's a great distraction and a great blessing to have no, I shouldn't use the word, nudniks and the people that you want to have around you. It's very, very helpful because when you have all those people with you, it's a great distraction and a great way of bringing it together. I was heavily involved with my shul, started off the shul and then started off the yeshiva. Having been involved with that, I didn't know that it was going to be how incredible it was. In my room, I had 2 yeshiva boys studying all day long because I liked the noise. When I was at boarding school, I used to get people, kids, when I was a prefect, get 2 boys to, when they were talking, catch them and let them kneel next to my bed, and then they would talk and I'd fall asleep. So I did the same thing, bringing the yeshiva guys. So while I was lying in bed, they were studying and everything else. I didn't know what they were saying, but it helped me fall asleep. So I had them in there. I incorporated everyone. I took on a blog. The blog was called Caring Bridge. And that was most helpful because the person that's in trouble is not you as the patient. The patient is being loved. The nurses are taking care of you. The family is taking care of you. The problem that you have is that the caregiver is the person that needs to be taken care of. They're running around this way, that way, and hosting calls the whole time. How's he doing? No, really, how's he really doing? Now, just between me and you, just how's he really doing? So people really want the inside scoop. Everyone wants to know what's really going on. So we had a blog, and I wrote in the blog, and sometimes I was pleasant, and sometimes I wasn't pleasant. When you have chemo, and when you're in this particular situation, you've got permission to be however you want. Everyone's forgiving. People come over to see us. I say, I don't even say, I just go to sleep. Oh, shame, Ivan is tired. It's the best thing under the sun. So you do get lots of benefits from being in the situation you're in. You can be a little bit of, be a little bit of a victim. I'm very much being against the victim. Now I'm going to get a little religious with you. And hopefully, this particular point, you'll be able to understand, if not today, it might be tomorrow, it might be in 3 months, it might be in 10 months, and hopefully it will get there. Anything that you learn from, let's say, a quote, or anything that you learn in life is very, very interesting. Bloom where you are planted might be one. You might say, oh, wow, that's an amazing quote. You'll come up with so many quotes. Quotes are meaningless unless they are inculcated inside of you. Once those quotes or mantras or whatever are inculcated inside of you, then you start operating out of that. As opposed to everyone saying mantras, oh, this is a good day, happiness, and everything. It means nothing unless it's part of you. So how do you, the one thing that I live by continuously, and thank God I don't want to be tested much more, but, in order to see if it's really working. But there is from last week's parasha, which was Ve'es Hanan, there's a quote in there that says, Ein od milvado, which means there is no one but God. Okay, very nice. Who would think that that's such a resonating factor? Except what that means is that no human being can help you, and no human being can hurt you. There's only Hashem. Which means further, when I get anything that happens to me or anything that happens to you, we're talking about the minor, we're talking about the major, comes from God. Once you recognize that, you cannot be a victim. You have been given a test, you have been given a challenge, and it's for you to step up, not to be a victim, because that's been given to you, no matter what your test is. If you can inculcate that, it's the most fantastic part of your life. I'm not talking about Pollyanna. I'm talking about it's not easy when you hear cancer the first time. It's not easy hearing it the second time. And the third time, believe you me, I was mourning in a very different way when I heard it. The second time that I went through my stem cell autologous, where what they did is they gave me chemo. Then they took a PET scan to see that I was all clear. Then they gave me high dose chemo, which killed off my cell factory completely. My immune system was shot to zero. And then they inserted the cells back into me. That was the worst period of time. I remember that on that second one. And my doctor told me, I said, Dr. Bhushan, great Indian doctor, I love him. I said, doctor, what's my chances of survival? Because I like to just get down to the bottom line. I mean, why waste time? So he says like 70-30. So 70-30 sounds quite good. He says, but I just can't tell you which side you're going to be on. So, you live in that kind of reality. He's got a great sense of humor. I appreciate it. And so, even in today's terms, what's my chance? He says 70-30 still. I'm feeling wonderful right now. There is a process that I'm going through called graft versus host, where I'll tell you in a minute, I've got somebody else's cells in me, and they're fighting my organs and my cells the whole time. And so when I went to Nando's, kosher Nando's, I was so excited when I arrived. My mouth was on fire. Then I went back a second time. I said, okay, fine, just make it mild. My mouth is still on fire. So I've had to go to a local doctor over here, and I had a good appointment over there, and he gave me something. It's somewhat helpful. But that's what's going on. You have different parts of your body changing the whole time. Only in November the 12th, 2016, I'll have an idea. I won't know if I've got a cure, but I've probably got a pretty decent idea that I may have a cure by November the 12th, if I have my PET scans and that all comes out clear. So it'll be a good celebration. Give you an idea about opening up to the public. So you can see that I had my rabbis with me when I went. You can see that I have inculcated in my mind, not always, please believe me not, Ein od Motivator, there's no one but God. So if you have that approach that everything that comes to you is from God, you are not a victim. When you are the receiver of whatever test you've got to understand that you cannot lie back and be the victim. That's not what you've been called upon. If you recognize that everything comes from God, then you realize, okay, if this has been given to me by God, what am I going to do about it? So you're not the victim, you have to step up and lead the people. If, for example, I were to get what I've had, and I were to sit back and say, oh, what are you going to do for me? You know, and then everyone comes over and you're like really pretty pathetic. All the people around you are going to be pathetic and they're not going to know what to do with you. What you have been put in charge of is actually to step up and to lead all the people that are around you. And there's no coincidence by who comes into your life at that particular point in time. Everyone that comes into your life is meant to be there at exactly that point in time. I'm not going through the journey of cancer on my own. I'm not going through the tests on my own. We're going through through this together. Now, how you include people or how you exclude people is your business. That's up to you. I mean, obviously, you've got that free choice. But you have to lead people so that they can understand that you are going to lead and together you're going to overcome it. If you're going to exclude people, look where your energy is going. It's going towards excluding people over there, mean not getting better. The big problem with all of us as well is that we are physically attached to this world. We like all our gadgets, everything, you know, like our toys, our cars, and everything else like that. We are very, very well trained in the physical world. The physical world is, we are perfect. We know exactly iPhone, this phone, technology. Even if we don't, we'll get our kids to do it. So, if you understand that the spiritual world is probably 80% more powerful than the physical world. So if we're not spiritually connected, get somebody that is spiritually connected into your team. So you'll find a Rebbitzin, you'll find a rabbi, you'll find someone that's spiritually connected in yoga, I don't care, whichever way it is. But if you have that other component, besides just the physical side, you'll find that you're able to get leapfrog over the difficulties that you're in. So you've got to have Ein od Motivator, believing in God. You've got to have your spiritual advisor. And the third part is you've got to have a decent relationship with your family. Because they're going to be somewhat of your supporters. And you want to know something? Sometimes that doesn't come. I'm very candid with you tonight. My dear sister is sitting here, Nadine. Just to give you an idea, she and I have loggerheads forever. You know, I couldn't stand her, she couldn't stand me. Okay? So, and there was no ways in hell that we were going to get to have a passage in our lives where there was going to be happiness and completeness. So, on my third round of cancer, the only way that I was going to get a cure was to have someone directly related to me give me my stem cells. If not that, I'd have to go out into a donor bank of 15 million people. So the first set of results, first tests go to my sister Nadine and to my other sister Rolene, who I get on pretty well with, relative to the way I get on with Nadine. Isn't that shocking to speak to you like this, But this is, you know, reality. Nobody likes to talk. We've got to be private about everything. So, as fate would have it, or as Hashem would plan it, Nadine comes in 100% score. And my other sister that I get on well with gets 0. She's all confounded. You're like, oh, how can I not help you? Are you sure the test results are right? Nadine's here, and no problem. She's flying out. So we fly out to Dallas. We get her tested. And by this time, I've already gone through all my cancer treatments. I'm now down to 10 days. They've knocked out all my stem cells and everything like that. We had the blessing of having Yaakov Shweki come for an amazing concert. If you haven't seen it, you can see it online or whatever. We had my Rabbi Roden, and everyone was there. Said it's the most spiritual night that they've ever had in their lives. It was just spontaneous. We had about 250 people. Nadine was there. We had an amazing, amazing evening. Yaakov Shweki did about 2 other concerts for me as well. I mean, I didn't know him from a bar of soap until a friend of mine, and we went to a concert of his in Caesarea, and he dedicated the song "Cry No More" to me. And we've just become very fast friends, and it's just been the most amazing experience. Let's go back to my sisters now. So anyway, we're having this conflict going backwards and forwards. She comes over, and of course I have to be somewhat nice to her. I mean, she's going to save my life. I've just got to get the blood, and then I don't have to be that nice. But as fate would have it, on the second level, is that the doctors exclude her. She's wonderful, she's 100% matched, but there may be one or two issues that will not be satisfactory for me. Knockout punch. We've got 10 days ticking before I have to find someone. Now, Nadine has to go home. No more Nadine. Okay, we can go back to our battling and everything else like that, because she didn't do anything for me now. And then we go back, then what happens, I've got to look through a bank of 15 million people. How am I going to find this person that's going to be my direct match? It helps because that it had to be someone Ashkenazi, it had to be someone this, someone that. They were shooting blanks the whole time. They could only look at 3 people per day, and I had 10 days left. That left, I could only look at 30 people out of a bank of 15 million people. So about 5 days, they couldn't come to anyone. People had changed their addresses. People no longer wanted to donate. People had aged out. So then my sister comes back, and if there's banks going on all over, Australia, South Africa, everyone's doing donor banks. Not that they would help me. It wouldn't help me at all, because until you process that work, it takes about 3 months. But they're paying forward, because there's a lot of people that are in that bank today that are able to, in my situation, will probably be able to be donors. So it gave somebody something to do. When people are sick and people don't know what to do, they love to have something to do. So you have a donor bank or something like that, which was very good. So we have to find, where are we going to find these people? My daughter Talia and my son-in-law Jethro meet a guy by the name of Jay Feinberg. By the way, if you're Jewish, just be very proud that you're Jewish. You'll see why. There's a connection that is second to none. So my daughter finds this guy, Jay Feinberg. Jay Feinberg was a recipient of somebody else's cells, and he founded an organization called Gift of Life. And he calls me and he says, Ivan, don't worry about money. Don't worry about anything. I will have you donors in the next 2 or 3 days. Just relax. Where is Jay? He doesn't even know me. You know, he knows my daughter. And, you know, it's nice when somebody, underestimates and over-delivers. But he says he's going to do it. So, okay, that wasn't an underestimate, but he really delivered 4 or 5 people in the next 3 days. They chose out of that group one girl, 25 years of age, from New York City. And she knew about me. That's all I knew about her. What she knew about me was that I was 57 years old and that I lived in Texas. Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. She didn't know where I lived. She just knew that I was 57 and I had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Jay Feinberg, the day when I'm going to have my stem cells, emails me and he says, Ivan, I just want to let you know, I'm watching the girl taking her stem cells out, and they will be at you, please God, tomorrow. That's all I knew. So now the doctor comes to me, as we've got this news, and he says, Ivan, I'm sorry. I don't know if this woman's going to work for you. So I said, well, why? She says, well, she went to Mexico and she didn't take her malaria tablets. So I said, so what? You know, so he said, well, then you're going to have to sign a waiver. I said, what's the difference between if she went to Mexico, didn't take malaria tablets? If it came to the bush, okay, that would be another thing. So I signed the waiver paper. So I knew 2 things about this girl. Well, 3. She was from New York, 4. She was 25. She was a naughty girl, went to Mexico without taking her malaria tablets. And that this guy had watched her give her stem cells. So I wanted to personify the thing. I didn't want it to be that a donor's giving me things. So in my blog, I would call her Jackie. The reason why I'd call her Jackie, because I asked them how good a match, and they wouldn't tell me. So I said, it's like winning the jackpot. They said, yes. So I called her Jackie. So in my blog, I called her Jackie, 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 all the way through. On the Wednesday, I get a bag of blood, and that's from Jackie. Puts it up, very anticlimactic, by the way. You would think like it would have songs on it, and everyone's all excited about it. Puts it inside me. I'm like a dead duck lying there, and when it goes in, I think I'm all, happy. I'm trying to make myself happy, but I'm just shot. I don't know what's happening. The only thing that makes you feel somewhat happy, not that I really cared, because you don't have any taste or anything else, they give you a birthday cake because it's celebrating your new birth. I've had 4 birthdays now. So, aren't I lucky? So my last birthday is November the 12th, 2014. So I'm 2 years old. By the way, I'll tell you this in a little bit. I'm speaking for the Union of Jewish Women, and they have a rule that they'll only let women speak to their organization. So how could they let me speak? Because when they took my bone marrow, they found out that in my chromosomes, after I had it, I was 100% woman. So I can't make a minion anymore, and I am a woman. So we go through the process, and I get a text on the Sunday morning. I had it on the Wednesday morning, a text from a friend of mine's daughter which says, her name is not Jackie, her name is Greer Brody. Greer Brody. Understand the following, that if you are in contact with your donor, you can get federal imprisonment, and it's a total violation of federal law. You cannot be in touch with your donor at all. Why? Because of extortion reasons. You know, in case you need more, whatever the case is, they could say, well, you want 500,000, $1 million. So it's illegal to do it. But there is a term called YOLO, which means you only live once. And when I'm lying in a bed, not knowing which way I've got 70-30, remember? I don't know which way it's going. I don't care about those rules. So my daughter looks up on Facebook, and sure enough, Greer Brody and my daughter Liat have got 82 mutual friends. So that's pretty interesting. And then she's able to, I said, Liat, Dad, you can't. Liat, just call her, please. Next thing, I'm on the phone speaking to Greer Brody, and yeah, it was like an alarm when we spoke. I feel like the federal agents are coming in now to forget me for that. But so Greer Brody, I'm on the phone with her, and she just suddenly tells me that she gave it. I said to her, what time did you give your stem cells? She told me the time. She told me the date. I said, did you go to Mexico and you didn't take your malaria tablets? Sure enough. So I knew that we had Greer Brody. I told my doctor that I knew who the donor was. He says, Ivan, don't even tell me. Don't even tell me. Because they could get into trouble for either agreeing or not agreeing that I had the stem cells. So anyway, Greer Brody came to visit me 2 weeks later, because you know where she's from? Dallas, Texas. You talk about Yad Hashem, the hand of God. Her family has been living 1.9 miles from our house. Okay, her mother died of cancer, of lung cancer, and when she went to Israel, decided to become a donor. And for her, it was the happiest moment that she could help somebody when her mother had passed away. So Greer and Brody and my daughters are good friends, because my one daughter lives in New York, and Greer lives in New York, and so that's just a nice happening. Now, I just want to bring out a couple of interesting points. My wife, sitting in the front, has been an incredible wife. So generally people say that. I mean, you don't say like, my wife is not the nicest person. But I must tell you that from a caregiving point of view, she gets a D. Okay, D means not so good. An E could be like a little worse, but for caregiving, she gets a D. And you shouldn't speak Lashon Hara in front of a group, because its compounding effect could be multiplier effect, so I'm not going to say why. But do you mind if I do? Okay. So anyway, there I am lying in the hospital the one time, and my heartbeat is at about 220 beats per minute. Now, just so that you know, 220 beats per minute is a little high. Normally, you're meant to have 72, somewhere around there, under normal circumstances. So I'm at 220 beats per minute. Probably by my saying this, the alarms are still going off, because they're going to come collect me now. So my wife then, I say to my wife, they hit the panic button. So the panic button hits, and the next thing you've got 15 nurses in the room and a doctor. And now we need a cardiologist. The cardiologist is not to be found. He is nowhere to be found. They're calling everywhere. They can't get it. And the other, oh, Mr. Sachs, are you okay? Are you okay, Mr. Sachs? Yeah, I'm fine, no problem. I think my heart's going a little faster or whatever. That's what I hear. How are you doing, Mr. Sachs? Fine. And then they try, oh, thank God. And then I say, thank God, I've got a solution. You've got to think outside of the box. You cannot be thinking inside of the box. When you're in a situation like that, you have to do something that's outside of the box. So what am I going to do? You've got all these nurses not knowing what to do. You've got a doctor who's not a cardiologist that doesn't know what to do. And the locum that's meant to be on duty is refusing to take my call or anything. So I said to Melanie, do me a favor. I'm going to use the terms over here that you can relate to. But in America, we have a system called Call 911. And when you call 911, then they come. So this is similar to me lying in the hospital over here at Melrose Park, or wherever you are over here, and I call Hatsala. And I say, Hatsala, could you please help me? So I said, Melanie, just call 911. She calls 911 eventually. That's why she gets the D, because she didn't do it immediately. And I get on the line, and the operator says, yes, sir, what do you need? I said, ma'am, I need a cardiologist. Yes, sir. Well, where are you? I'm at Medical City. Sir, is that a hospital? Yes, ma'am. Why are you calling us, sir? You're in a hospital. Yes, ma'am, I am, but I think the cardiologist died, and we don't know where he is. Sir, are you sure you're in the Medical City? They don't have another? Yes, ma'am. Is there anyone we can talk to? No, ma'am. I'm here at 100, 200 beats per minute. There's one nurse, but she can't talk English. I don't know what I said, but needless to say, the next thing, a whole banking team came in and took care of the whole thing. So when you are in those kind of situations, if you just sit back and you don't do anything, you really have to do something. I appreciate my wife having called 911 because I couldn't have done it at the time. But, and I appreciate her having the good sense of humor not to be offended by that. In fact, she quite loves it. That's what you said, right? Yeah. So anyway, you have these particular moments. You include people. Is there any other things that I should share, or do you think that's enough? No. Huh? Enough? My son Gal said it's enough. What I'd like to do is just open up for questions. There may be questions. Some of you may be private still. So you might meet me afterwards. But are there any questions that you might have in dealing with crises or dealing with anything that you find? I'll be very candid with you. I'll tell you whatever you want to know. Yes.
Were you religious before you came sick?
Was I religious? No, I was not. I was on the pathway of becoming. I've got a wonderful rabbi, Rabbi Roden, and he always believed with whatever you do in life, go slowly, slowly, slowly. This is going to be controversial. Should I say it?
Absolutely.
Okay. So my wife and I have got a decision to make. I went to Christian Brothers College in Kimberley. And I came out fantastically Jewish, proud to be Zionistic, proud to be Jewish, wanting to learn about Judaism. My good wife, she went to King David, Linksfield. And she's got a resentment towards it. Now, I'm not saying it happens to all, but a lot of the people from King David. So I had to make up a decision. Do I want my kids to be like my wife, or do I want my kids to be like me? There was no Christian Brothers girls in Dallas, but we decided to have them go to initially to the Jewish day school, but after that to go into public school, but to internally become Shomrei Shabbat and to do it that way, so that we would keep kosher and we would keep Jewish in the home and we'd send them out into the world. And so that's why we did it. So it was a slow process. Was I think I was pretty religious at that time, but nothing, how were we? I were.
You were religious at that time.
I was religious at that time. I stand corrected. That's why I have her standing by. Yeah, I was religious at that time. More than now. Yes. Yeah, I was the same.
More into the believing of everything's Hashem. You were more religious, keeping things. I mean, you're the same, but you're more in your head now, and it's inculcated.
Yeah, it's more inculcated now.
Yep.
Any other questions?
So, what do you mean by you mustn't be the victim? When you said at the beginning, you mustn't be the victim.
Yeah.
In other words, you're saying that you've got this cancer, and you mustn't say, oh my God, you gave this to me, I can't do anything about it. Is that what you mean by being a victim?
Yeah.
Or blaming, or what?
Yeah, so good question. Thank you for that question. So is it that like when you have something come your way, are you a victim, or a victim is something that happens to you and it's just because you're a muzzle or something like that? Yeah, it's like, this is, God comes in, gives a refuah, they say. He provides a solution for the difficulties that you are in before it even happens. So if you understand that, then you know that if I've got this thing happened and it's been given to me, it wasn't given to anybody else. It was given to me. So what am I going to do about it? Am I going to fall back and say, well, you know, I'm in a pathetic state, please help me? You actually have to, whoever is around you is going to follow your lead. So if you are the patient and you're going to be pathetic, the people around you are going to be pathetic to try and go with you. There's a wonderful doctor by the name of Dr. Stanley Lipschitz, who's in Johannesburg, and I went with my dad to see him, and he gave us the most remarkable advice. My dad was suffering from non-Hodgkin's lymphoma like myself, and my good mother, well, being the Jewish mother that she was catering to him for every little thing. Oh, Gerald, do you want this? Do you want this? Do you want this? Do you want that? Gerald, do you want this? Do that? And the hands are right? And do you want this? Do you want that? And catering in every single side of the thing. Gerald, just lie in bed, whatever the case is. Dr. Lipschitz said, the kiss of death. You want your husband dead? Continue doing what you're doing. You've got to have the person that's the patient, let them do things. Don't like mollycoddle them that like they're pathetic. They're a live entity. They can still contribute. They can still do things. And it was really a wonderful lesson that I think maybe even that had an impact on myself. You know, like get dressed in the morning, walk, you know, do things. Don't just sit there like, you know, the world owes you a living, or that you're just pathetic, you know, and you're waiting for everyone to come and say, hi, how sorry, oh shame. You know, like that's the thing. You have to turn around. Don't feel sorry for me. It's, you know, I'm okay. Feel sorry for my wife, who's a caregiver and who gets a D. You know, elevate her esteem in that. That might be helpful. Yeah. So is that okay? Yeah.
You mentioned something about you'll only know in 3 months' time whether the stem cell treatment will work, or is it some other treatment?
No, so the stem cells themselves that I've got from Greer are working with me. It's fighting graft versus host, and it's only after 2 years can you determine whether it's going to have worked or not. So we'll see. I'm feeling really good, not like averagely good. I feel really good. I have neuropathy of the feet and all that kind of thing, but I've got so used to that I don't even know what's normal anymore. Neuropathy is from the chemo and all of that. It affects your nerve endings in your feet and everything else like that. But, you know, you just get used to it. You know, it's like having a needle in your foot. And after a while, you get used to it. You know, you can't pull it out. But it's you just get used to it, because what else are you going to do? You know, so that's what, yeah. Yes?
What is the healthcare system like in terms of approval of chemo?
Healthcare system, you go into a hospital, and by the grace of God you go in, and by the grace of God you come out. It's miraculous how you even come out alive from a hospital in any situation. There are so many variables in the hospital. I mean, I remember going for, you've got, by the way, the strategy that I forgot to even share. I came up with a mantra, and the mantra was, let me just show it to you in case my words aren't coming out clearly. Is my American accent affecting you? So anyway, this was a friend of mine put this together, because I came up with this thing called got far. Far, what does that mean? It means faith, attitude, and humor. And you've got to have a sense of humor. It's really an important aspect of it. So we got T-shirts made. Some friends got T-shirts made and gave it to them. And so some people wore got far or whatever, and then So, but that actually helped as well, because what you're doing is you're helping the people that are with you on the team to have that kind of approach as well. So to give you an idea, with a friend of mine, Lane Harris, a very good friend of mine, and hopefully he should have a refuah shlema. By the way, I'm not scripted, as you know, and I wanted to start off first of all by saying that there are many people that are not well. And one of the ways that they do get well, I honestly believe it. I've got a dear friend of mine in here tonight that has sincerely been davening for me every single day. But the sincerity in which he tells me that he's been doing it, I have no doubt that it's been part of the reason for my having a refuah shlema as well. Now, I get concerned when some people get religious on the fact, is time out? Is that the list?
Here's your list.
Okay, good. So anyway, we've got a list of people. I just want to read out the names because it's important. There's people in the audience and some people outside that we want a refuah shlema for. What is a refuah shlema for? We're asking God to have His mercy that people could have a speedy and complete recovery. People forget every time we study at our shul, we have it that we're studying in the merit of someone. These are just a few people. If you wouldn't mind, you might recognize him. Shlomo Gal ben Malka, which is my son, Gal Sachs. We've got Arya Label ben Italaya, Lane Glazer. Tonight's program really is about being brave, and I'll tell you about that. On the rocks that I've got over here that some of you will have, it says be brave. Just to give you an insight onto Lane Harris, he's suffering from cancer. He's probably about 75. Greatest guy alive. I just love him. He's a neighbor of mine. And he said that when he was younger, he came running to his dad and he said, Dad, in tears, Dad, so his dad says, what happened? He says, you know what, they're picking the football team and everyone got picked except me. So his dad said to him, you know what, this is life. Always remember, be brave. And he says he's never ever forgotten it. So I was with a girl who paints rocks. I got a girl, I always paint my own rocks. And this girl, by her own choosing, wrote, be brave. So I said, please write out, be brave on the rocks. And so I've got a lot of rocks over here. I don't know if everyone will have them, but I've got rocks that are called Be Brave. So that's Arya Label ben Italaya, and his name is Lane Glazer. There's a guy by the name of Tzvi ben Malka, Mark Goldwasser, and you know him, Stan. He's suffering as well from cancer, going through a few stem cells. And Yishai Lev ben Rivka, a young man of about 16 years of old that had a car accident. And then obviously to all of us here in the community, our hearts go out obviously to Rabbi Kranus and to Rebbetzin Kranus, Nechama Kranus. If you know, unfortunately her parents were in a fire this past Shabbos. Her mother is Nifta and her father is in critical condition right now. And his name is Yosef Chaim Alta ben Malka, father to Rebbetzin Nechama Kranus. And you know, only when you know people sometimes does it really resonate with you. And they just recently had a bar mitzvah and the grandparents came to Dallas and I had the opportunity of meeting them. And just lovely, lovely people. Unfortunately, he's in critical condition and the Rebbetzin has passed away. Leah Devora Basmalka is my daughter, Liat Sachs, who suffers from lupus and has had a difficult time going on right now. Another woman by the name of Karen Chaya ben Shulamit, which is Karen Rainan, a woman that has been told she's just got days to live. An amazing woman. And then Tzipora ben Rivka, Robin Nyman, Rivka ben Nedra, Rivka de Gedalia, who chose the approach of not going the medical route, but going the route of natural. Don't know where, that's what people choose. They choose different paths to go, and that's been a difficult ride. Then we've got Necha, Zelda, Adina, Baschana, Leah, Jenna Dotson. That is someone local to you people over here?
From Denver, Colorado. She has a lot of health issues.
Okay, and then Chaya Bat Leah, which is Natalie Wolf, and Rachel Bat Jean.
Can I just say a few things about Natalie Wolf? She's a young dancer. She's 37 and she's waiting for a lung transplant. I don't know if everyone's seen it. She posts on a page. She has cystic fibrosis. Okay, and then Rachel Bat-Jean, she's Rachel Answer, a 7-year-old girl, the granddaughter of Shirley Answer, who's on our executive committee.
Oh. So they should all have a refuah shlema. We call upon God to please give them the mercy to have a speedy and complete recovery. With the question. And all those other people that are ill, they should also be included in our prayers, for sure. Any other questions? Ah, I love that one. I don't know why you came up with such definiteness.
If you and your father both had non-Hodgkin's disease, is it familial?
No.
Can I just say something here? I also had non-Hodgkin's, my dad and my mom,
Oh my God.
all three of us.
I don't know if mine was, the one thing that I do know is that when you're having cancer, in my particular case, they told me when I first got, as it is, it was a shock that I heard that I had cancer. Then I heard that I had aggressive cancer, very aggressive. So generally I said, oh, that's terrible news. The doctor said, what do you mean terrible news? That's the best news you could hear. Because if it's aggressive, the cells break up very quickly and the chemo can get in between. So now I'm a chochem. I know everything. I meet another person who got cancer. I said, is it aggressive? They said, yes. I said, fantastic. It was the exact opposite thing. So I don't know anything about cancer, whether it's familial or whatever the case is. All I know is that I made many mistakes. Yeah.
That's not though.
Yeah, that's not. That's a good question.
Last question.
Why last question for you? Yeah.
I've been speaking about the tension between public and private, not only in terms of investing, but in terms of what you went through. And how do you reconcile that moment where you told this very personal, life-changing moment where you're humbled and you actually realize that we are mortal, and then you walk out and everyone goes on not knowingly with their lives and are worrying about their so-called first world problems and the geezer bursting, and how do you reconcile yourself living in a world where that is the reality of most other people, and dealing with your own private.
Yeah. So all I can say is I think it's Wendy Moss that has a quotation that I think resonates well. Be kind, because every person you meet is dealing with a challenge that you don't know anything about. So all I know is that I'm not free, because if I have a cure, it doesn't mean that I'm cured from having challenges. Verkehrt, the opposite. Punkt verkehrt. It's definitely not. It's the opposite. When you've had challenges, sometimes they come more and more and more, and you're going to have to deal with them. Just because, like I say, he's had such a hard time going through all these challenges, God, just leave him alone for a while. One of the questions that I found fascinating in Chicago, one woman says, well, don't you ask why not you? Why you? Why all this stuff coming to you? So my rabbi that was there said, Ivan, do you mind if I answer? I said, Rabbi, by all means. He says, if, for example, you win the lottery, would you answer that question? Why me? So we choose what we think is what we want, and sometimes people have a lot of money and they're miserable as anything, and sometimes it can be a curse, so you don't know what's good or what's bad. But all I'm going to say now is one thing, and it's going to be two things that will be pretty controversial. I would not change anything that I've had in my life. Okay? I've loved the experience of cancer. I've loved every test and challenge that I've had. Okay, so now you can call your psychiatrist and just say, look, do you mind checking for Ivan? Do you have a spare moment? The second thing that I'm going to say to you, and I really mean that, it's not like fictitious, is that within every test and within every challenge, there is a blessing of opportunity. I don't call it anything but opportunity. So when you have what you're going to have, it's an incredible opportunity. I've got my sister back. Okay? The one that I didn't like. I love her. Okay? That was buried within that thing. There is no ways that in normal circumstances that we would have got on. I don't care what psychologist you would have brought. It was a matter of me being in a position of being vulnerable. And for, like when you're in that vulnerability stage, you get so much more power by being vulnerable than be holding on to that I'm the most powerful person and I've got everything together. You don't have it all together. Everyone suffers from depression in some form or another. Everyone suffers from different things, And in your vulnerability is where your power lies. And I honestly believe with every single challenge that you have, there's incredible blessing and opportunity within it. It may not come today. I mean, how long have we've been fighting for a while? Like for a good, 50 years or something like that. 50 years, imagine, you give up hope. Never give up hope. There's hope right around the corner. I mean, look at that, 50 years. Who would have bet? You would have lost all your money betting that we would have got on. Let's hope it continues. Yes.
First of all, thank you for being so open. Tonight is partly in conjunction with DRLink, and DRLink offers support to cancer patients. Thank you for saying the caregivers, because we also believe that the caregivers need a lot of help, and the extended family, the children, and everybody else that's part of the family. So if anybody knows anybody, we've got some patients here tonight. If you have anybody that's going through cancer, please get them in contact with DRLink. There is an advert for the Supercar Day, which is on Sunday. Anybody wants to come and have a ride in a supercar, all the cancer patients are going to get a free ride, and some a free helicopter ride. Unfortunately, we can't fit everybody into the helicopters, but they can come and have a supercar ride. And the other people will have to pay, the general public will have to pay for the rides. But we offer any kind of support, whatever people need. If they need meals, they need trips to treatment or back from treatment. If they need massages, we have therapists who offer their time, we give massages for free.
I would have liked to have been here. Massages I never had over there.
We have 4 times a year, sorbet and Diskin of us, all their therapists for massages. And it's also for people who've lost people, even if it's a year later, and they still feel they need some support, they can come for those treatments as well. So we offer a myriad of things to offer families and extended family.
Well, Union of Jewish Women really, I mean, when I watched that, was absolutely amazing. DRLink as well. That's what makes the world go around, just the idea of us all helping one another, and we just feel good about it. If there's no more further questions, I can speak. No other questions? Public questions? Now we'll hear all the private people come to me. Okay. Have a good night. Thank you.
Before you go,
Am I going to get a massage?
all I can say is you rock. You
Thank you.
really are. You're amazing.
Thank you.
We started doing these series of talks, and I promised everyone we'd do it every 6 weeks. And then suddenly we get a call. I would like to talk 3 weeks afterwards. Okay. It's meant to be, and it was amazing. I think the biggest mistake is that I couldn't get it out there to everyone. And so all I ask is everyone go onto the Union of Jewish Women's Facebook page, press like, and you will see the most amazing events coming up. We have Mandy Wiener coming, talking in 3 weeks' time. We have, on the 11th of September, a happy birthday. And in November, we'll have Divorce 101, Thrive and Survive. Also, on the 4th of September, there's a musical tribute to Shalom Aleichem, 2 shows, the 5 o'clock and 7:30, and believe me, within 2-3 more days, they will be completely sold out. So if you want a ticket, you need to book in advance. Thank you, Ivan.
With pleasure. Mel, what are we going to do? The Divorce 101, we'll be back in America.
On behalf of HOD, I'd like to give you this pictorial history.
Oh, thank you.
As well as a small gift from the Union of Jewish Women.
Wow.
And then I have a gift for Gal.
Come up.
Come. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And if anyone wants a rock, there's rocks over here. And if there's not enough, I'll make some. Okay.